ओम गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ओम ह्रीं श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। So, um, Kenopanishad is one of those Upanishads which has a story right into it. Kathopanishad likewise also has a story, right? Not all Upanishads have a story in it, but some of them. This has a story. Kathopanishad has a story. Um, Chandogya has a little story. Brihadaranyaka, it's a large Upanishad, so anyways, it has some small anecdotal stories. But there are some Upanishads or several other Upanishads don't have such stories. It's a conversation between a Shishya and a Guru in some form or the other, right? Ishavasya Upanishad, for example, we saw there's no story in it. Prashna Upanishad is also a direct conversation between the Guru and the Sishyas. But Kena Upanishad has a story embedded, and the story is aligned to what the Guru is teaching the Sishya, the concept, the idea, what, and also the Prakriya. Prakriya means the method to observe. So the story is not some general fun story, or it's not. The story is very, very relevant to what the Guru is trying to teach the Sishya. And it obviously is a story it's a made up story, right? It's a fable, or it's a fictional story that the Guru has made up so that the Sishya can understand the concept better. So if you see the first chapter and the second chapter, the Guru goes to explain to the Sishya that all that functions within him or within us, within any of us, is functioning because of that one principal entity, which he calls as Brahman. The name given to that is Brahman. Why the word Brahman? Because it comes from the root Brihad. Br or Brihad means very large. That is why Brihadaranyaka Upanishad means it is like a large forest. Brihad Aranyaka. And those who know of Tanjavor's Brihad Ishwara temple, that is also Brihad Ishwara, is very, very huge. The linga is big, the temple is, Nandi is huge. So Brihad Ishwara temple, the temple is huge. So Brihad means huge or large. So Brahman comes from that word Brihad to indicate that this is some entity that is very big. But it is not just it's very big, it is also very small. So, Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. So there is a very beautiful phrase. I think it's in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan, which means it is smaller than the smallest. Anuhu means the smallest unit of particle. We refer it to as atom, but it's not necessarily the atom. It is the smallest unit of particle, because still today science is still continuing to figure out what is the smallest unit. So
they call it God particle.
God particle, Higgs boson. So now they're trying to find out, but the idea is that Anuhu is the smallest particle possible. And it is said that this principal entity is Anor Aniyan, which means it is smaller than Anuhu. The Anuhu is the smallest particle, it is smaller, which means it is subtle. It is extremely subtle. Mahato Mahiyan, it's larger than the largest. Anything you can think of, it is larger than that. Brihat. So that is why the Guru in this particular Upanishad, he refers to it as Brahman. If you see in Ishavasya Upanishad, there is no reference to the term Brahman. There is reference to Tat. There is reference to Isha. There are such references made. But here he talks about Brahman. Because he's saying that it is not some, don't think that it is something that can be understood by the mind, or it cannot be, or by anything, any of the faculties that you have. It is much, much more beyond and larger than what you can ever imagine. But the idea is to be understood is it's not larger in size, it is extremely subtle. So when something is very subtle, it can pervade the smallest of the nooks and the largest of spaces. It has to be seen as something which is very subtle. The reason the word Braha is used is because it then stuns the mind. Because when the mind sees something larger, only then it shuts up. Why did Krishna have to give a Vishwarupa Darshanam? Or why did he have to become so big? He could have been the same size and shown everything there. See, to Yashoda, Krishna showed the whole world inside the mouth. He didn't do Vishwarupa Darshanam to Krishna, to Yashoda. Because there he was trying to show her that you have this Vatsalya Bhava, and oh mother, I, Bhagavan, have decided to come down as your child, to show that kind of a, so show it in the mouth. Right? But here he is wanting to, with Arjuna, he is wanting to, because the mind went into depression and all that, right? He's wanting to stun the mind. See, when the mind goes into depression, there is one temple, I've told you about this, right? In Sholingar, and there are many places they do this. Sholingar Narasimha temple, Adivaram, it's Kondapalayam. The place is called Kondapalayam. At the foothills of the Mala, before you start ascending the hill, there is a temple there, Hanuman temple. And you go and stand there, the Vadyar does the Arati and all that. And then you go and stand there like that. He will take water and splash on your face. If somebody tells you that this will happen, you'll be prepared. Otherwise, it will give you a shock. It is meant for, because that temple is meant to shake off any mental disturbances, any mental obstacles that are there. So one of the best ways for the guru is when the child, or when the disciple is very confused, is to stun the mind. Something like to give something so that the mind is stunned. It goes into a state of awe. And then you slowly deliver the message. Because when the mind is too confused, too complicated, whatever you feed into it, it'll be like a gutter, right? You put Ganga Jal into gutter, gutter is not going to become pure. It will consume the Ganga Jal and it will still remain as gutter only. Your mind becomes like so convoluted and so disturbed. You put the best of wisdom, put the highest of Vedanta into it, it will still, that Vedanta wisdom will also become Kichdi or Malam. So what you have to do first, stun such a disturbed mind, or such minds that is so confused and all, you stun the mind. So Brihad is, when you introduce the idea of Brahman, you are introducing that something is very large, something is very big. So it stuns the mind. And then the mind becomes, oh, okay, then let me now listen. So there is humility that comes in, right? Because a lot of times when we go into this mental self-torture of the mind, thinking this, that, and the other, you don't know when to come out, right? You need an external help. You need external help to stop. Just drop everything, stop. Just by saying also sometimes doesn't happen, right? So when the guru is introducing Brihad, Brahman, this idea is that, oh, there is something huge and something large. That is one. Second thing, the Guru is saying that all that is functioning inside you and outside you and everywhere, it is because of that. So this is what in the first two chapters he is introduced to the Shishya. That because of this, everything here is functioning. Within you, everything is functioning. And then he goes into the story. And then goes into the story. He uses some references and he uses the Devatas. And using three Devatas primarily: Agni, Vayu, Indra. Right? And then with these Devatas, he's saying that this Brahman is appearing as a flash of light. And then this Brahman is there. He comes as a Yaksha. So the Devatas are suddenly seeing, oh, what is this beautiful, brilliant, dazzling light? This being that has come. So then they go to inquire. And when they go to inquire, they are not able to show their power. They are not able to find out who that Yaksha is. And then, so that is when Vayu, Agni goes, he tries to show his power, saying, I'm Agni, I can burn everything. Then the Yaksha says, can you burn this one small twig? He is not able to burn. And then Agni accepts defeat and comes back. Then Vayu goes. He says, I can blow off everything. Say, can you blow off this one twig I'll place here? Just move it. He's not able to do anything. And then he accepts defeat, comes back. And then they request Indra to go. Indra goes. When Indra goes, suddenly this Yaksha vanishes. The Yaksha vanishes, and in his place, Uma Parvati appears. Parvati Devi, Uma Haimavati, she appears. So then from there, then Indra asks, Oh mother, who is this being? What are you doing here? Who is this being? Can you please enlighten me? Right? So this is where the story ended with the third chapter. So now the fourth chapter, he is going to go in to describe the fourth chapter is very, very prose-like, almost like third. Sa brahmeti hovacha brahmano va etad vijaye mahiyadhvam iti tato haiva vidanchakara brahmeti. So then Parvati starts explaining to Indra that I am that Brahman. So first he sees Brahman as a dazzling Yaksha. When he goes closer to it, it vanishes. And then there is Uma Parvati there. And then through that, he is now trying to understand what is Brahman. And see what's the beauty. The very beautiful way the story is structured is also very beautiful. So here he says, Sa Brahmeti hovacha brahmano va etad vijaye mahidhvam iti. So he says, she says, Uma says, all that greatness that you have achieved, O Indra, it is because of Brahman indeed. It is through Brahman, it is because of Brahman. Tato haiva vidanchakara brahma iti. Then she goes on to say, Tasmadva ete deva atitaram iva anyan devan yat agnihi vayuhu indraste henat henannedishtam pasparshuste henat prathamo vidanchakara brahma iti. Then he says, all the gods. So amongst all gods, Agni, Vayu, Indra, they came nearest to Brahman. So they were fortunate, they were lucky, because they took the effort to go and find out what it is. Like how in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, amongst thousands of people, maybe one thinks about what is this life all about? What is spirituality? What is this material life? Amongst that one, so thousands of such people, thousands of such inquisitive people, there is one who actually follows the path and goes deeper into that question to investigate. There's and thousands such people who are sadhakas and seekers who investigate. There is one who very sincerely and at the cost of everything else follows and does all the sadhana and does all the necessary practices, etc. And of all the 1,000 people who are like that, one attained to me. So the pyramid is like that. It's a pyramidical structure. So here it says, of all the gods, these are three people who are fortunate enough and also who've taken the initiative to go and find out who Brahman is. Right? So this says, all the gods were surpassed, and Agni, Vayu, Indra, they approached nearest to Brahman, because they were the first to learn who this Brahman was. Then Tasmadva Indra Atitaram Iva Anyan Devan Saha Hena Nedishtam Pasparsha Sa Henat Prathamo Vidanchakara Brahmeti. Amongst those gods, Indra was the first. Amongst the three gods who went, Indra excelled the other gods and he approached even further nearest to the spirit. This is Tasyaisha Adesho Yetad Vidyuto Vidyuto Vyadyuttada Itin Nyamimishada Ityadhi Daivatam. So he says how Brahman appeared as a flash of lightning, appeared and then disappeared. The illustration of Brahman, he is like the splendor of lightning, Vidyut, which shines forth like a flash, appears and disappears with the twinkling of an eye. This is a comparison of Brahman with reference to the Devas. Now, the reference to the individual jiva, the mind seems to go always with it. The mind repeatedly tries to remember it. The thought of Brahman switches on off repeatedly. Tadvanam. Very good. So then comes the, okay. So from the 4th verse onwards, there are some meditations given. So let's look at the first 3 verses. The first 3 verses are the engagement with Uma Parvati, and then how Indra understands Brahman, and the other 2 devatas also understand Brahman. Those are the first 3 verses. The next next 4 or 5 verses is there are some ways to meditate upon Brahman. These are about 5 meditations that are given. So what are the different ways you can meditate on Brahman? As lightning, as a flash of lightning, as the winking of an eye, as Tadvanam. So those are references that are made. What are the different kinds of meditations? How? By thought, meditation through thought, etc. So first 3 verses is Uma is here, Parvati. She is saying, I am Brahman. Now what is happening here is, look at the experience of Indra and the 2 devatas. So the devatas first 2 went, they tried to go and understand what Brahman is. They were not able to. It is as though the eyes is trying to look for Brahman, but it's not able to. The ears are listening, trying to listen to Brahman. It is not able to. But then Indra goes and Brahman vanishes. And what Indra sees in place of Brahman is Uma Parvati, Devi. He sees Devi, and then Devi then points him to Brahman. So now look at how this works in our lives. We always keep searching. Somebody has told there is Bhagavan, there is the supreme consciousness, this this truth, this entity that is there, which give whatever name, Brahman, Narayana, Sadashiva, whatever name you give, Parashakti, this is there. And you try to access it by your senses. Right? You go to temples, you try to look for it. You sit in meditation, you try to look for it. You try to listen to songs, you say, can I get realization through all of this? Can I get realization by doing all of these things? By listening to more bhajans, will I get realized? By visiting more temples and seeing Bhagavan and the Murtis, will I get realized? By eating Kovil Prasadam every time, will I get realized? By smelling Uduvati and Bhasmam and Chandanam, will I get realized? Just by touching the Murti of Bhagavan or touching flowers that I'm offering to Bhagavan, Tulasi, Vilva, etc., will I get realized? So the answer is no. Answer is you cannot get realized, or the self-realization understanding cannot occur through the senses. Because the senses are two reasons. One, they're limited. And the second reason is it is that Brahman or that consciousness which is enabling this. So it is impossible for the function. It's, for example, it's impossible for the fan to figure out what electricity is. The primary existence of a fan when it's rotating is because of electricity. So it's impossible for the fan to understand what electricity is. So in the same way, it's impossible for the faculty to understand what is that function that is enabling it. Right? It's impossible for the eyes to understand it because you cannot use the eyes to see it, because eyes see because of it. எப்படி பார்க்கறது? Then comes the mind. So you've got the pancha jnanendriyas and then you got the mind. The mind, same way, when it tries to contemplate and meditate and think and all of that, it can try to get close to it, but still it cannot understand it. So now, assuming Indra is the mind. So now look at the story. Assume Indra is the mind. Agni and Vayu are the representations of the other jnanendriyas. So the other jnanendriyas, they try to go closer through these other methods, right? I go to the temple. I go to this thing. I pray so much times. I do all of this. I'm reading Bhagavatam every day. I'm chanting so many Ramanama Japa. So it is that pride that is talking. Like how the Devatas go in front of Brahman, the Yaksha, and they're trying to show that, I can blow, I can burn. It is like that. These faculties, the Jnanendriyas, they are trying to access or trying to get self-realization by these activities. But by no means we are saying these activities are not required. It is required for cleansing, for getting focus, for discipline. It is required. But these are not faculties through which you can attain to that. So this is the representation of Vayu and Agni. They can get close, they can show off all that, but they'll not be able to understand it at all. Then comes the mind. When the mind comes, it says, I meditate, I go into deeper states of consciousness, I control, I monitor the thoughts, I observe the thoughts, I do this, I do that, and all of that. And when the mind tries to get closer to what is Brahman, it disappears. It is elusive. And which is why you will see a lot of meditators getting frustrated also after several years of meditation. because it is elusive. Why? Because the whole idea is, after all that you've tried, the realization that I cannot try anymore to get it is the realization which enables this understanding. You try. You don't give up, but you know that this trying is not going to get me that. But I know I have to continue trying because I don't know what else to do. கடவுளே எனக்கு வேற என்ன பண்ணணும்னே தெரியாது, இதுதான் எனக்கு பண்ண தெரியும், but I know that this is not going to get me that. What will get me? Uma Haimavati, Devi's grace. So this is where the Upanishad beautifully brings in the idea of grace. And it says, when you try to grasp it, as Indra is going towards Brahman, like the mind tries to go, yes, I got it. When you go, it will vanish. While it vanish, because it is not something that is agrahyam, it is not graspable. You cannot grasp with the mind. You cannot grasp it with the mind because mind functions because of its presence. Mind cannot grasp it. But then what happens? For a sincere sadhaka, Brahman appears as Devi. Devi means, in this context, grace. That supreme grace. And then you pray to that grace, saying, Ennama idu? I've been trying to understand, trying to do this, that, and the other. I've done all sorts of things. And then only through grace, moksha ishyami ma shuchaha, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, which means I shall give you moksha, do not worry. Which means it is in the hand, the final step is in the hands of grace alone. All effort, then drop, let grace operate. This is the idea of that. When the story transitions, it says the mind is now trying to grasp, because you've done all the physical, you go to yatras, you go to temples, you go to bhajans, you go to kirtans, you do readings, you do upanyasams, you do all of that, and then you settle down and you go into contemplation. Now in contemplation, you're trying to contemplate, you're thinking, you're doing different processes, you're doing breathing techniques, you're doing visualization techniques, you're doing all of that, and then still it remains elusive. And then, see, the very, very subtle thing here is, which is why whenever we do any of even a simple dhyana, we do Guru Puja. We invoke the Guru. Because the moment you invoke the Guru, you are surrendering. The sense of surrender. Grace can enter us only when we become an empty vessel. There is a sense of surrender. Only then the grace will enter. Grace will be there, it will be hovering around. But for it to enter, this needs to become empty. So, this is the paradox. This is the paradox in the spiritual sadhana, is effort and grace. They travel together. The whole Yoga Vasishta was about that. Those who have read, if you remember the Yoga Vasishta of Vasishta, the samvada between him and Rama. Whole thing is about effort, and grace. So he says, the mind tries to do all that, goes there, and suddenly finds itself that Brahman is missing. And then Uma appears there with her full glory. So how does he describe that? The description of Uma is very beautiful in the previous verse. Tat abhyadravat tasmat tirodadhe सह तस्मिन् एव आकाशे स्त्रियम् आजगाम बहुशोभमानम् says बहुशोभमानम् उमा हैमावतीं तां होवाच किम एतद् यक्षम् इति. So बहुशोभमानम्, beautiful Uma Haimavatim appears there. And then he asks her that, oh mother, you tell me. So this is one thing. The second thing is, in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, there's a very beautiful way this is also represented. Mahalakshmi, Tayar, which is why whenever you go to any Perumal temple, it is said you should first meet Tayar. Tayar first Pakanamona, because only Tayar can take you to Bhagavan, Perumal. In fact, even the Acharyas, all the Acharyas of the Vaishnava Sampradaya can take you to Tayar. And because the Acharyan has brought you, Tayar will immediately allow you to go meet Perumal. Because all are pre-approved. Acharyas are pre-approved gate pass Chindraga. So Devi Tayar, she doesn't have to validate them. Oh, you're coming through this Acharyan? Takkana, you're allowed. So this is the idea. The same idea is represented there also in that particular Sampradaya, where they say that, like even when you go to Tirupati, for example, you go to Padmavati Tayar first, and then you go to Govindaraj Perumal, and then you go to Tirumala. Right? Tirumala is after you go to Padmavati Tayar. But that is the concept. The idea is you need mother's grace. You need mother's grace to be able to receive that understanding of what Brahman is. There is one Swamiji who told this. Somebody asked him, what is the, in Advaita Vedanta or Vedanta generally, what is the importance of Devi, mother? It is all Brahman only. What is the value or what is the value of mother? So the Swamiji says, very senior Swami, he says, the key to Brahman is held by the mother. So mother holds the key to Brahman. Because the beautiful thing about this whole idea of Brahman is it is not somewhere else. It is not somewhere else. Nochur Swami gives a very beautiful example. That the relationship between Shiva and Parvati, Shiva and Uma Devi, is like this. Shiva, when a devotee comes, Shiva doesn't think so much, he just walks out naked. So when the husband walks out naked, the wife is ashamed. Takkana, she will take a piece of cloth and put it over Shiva. So what you see, Shiva, is that cloth, that abharanam that you see over him. That is the world. So Nochur Swami says, he says very beautifully, Ambal, Shivan mela saatara the abharanam or the vastram is Maya, is this world that you see. The world that you see is Devi has put that vastram over Shiva. That vastram is removed, then you have the experience of Shiva. Shivam Advaitam. Prapanchopashamam Shantam Shivam Advaitam. So this is the idea, because the Brahman is not somewhere else. Brahman is right here, right now. It is not a concept that has to be investigated like a physical experiment or a mathematical formula that is somewhere out there. It is not an object. It is the most intimate. That is the problem. It is so intimate that it is very difficult to recognize it. It's like you wearing your spectacles on top of, trying to look. Chitapa was saying that a few days back. He literally had this experience where he was trying to search his spectacles through his spectacles. And then his grandson came and reminded, Tata, you are wearing it. So, how do you explain this? How can you explain to somebody that the very instrument through which you are searching is being powered by that? So then, how far do you have to go? How far do you have to go to seek that truth? So from a distance, there's somebody. There's another example I said earlier. Someone standing outside a temple, but is facing that direction. So he's asking, "Pakatla yartya, how far is the temple, Pavadin?" If you go in this direction, it will take you about 1.5 hours. But if you just turn around, it is right here. So it depends on which direction we are going. If you go searching for it in the world, it will take you that 1.5 hours is going in that direction. Your temple is right behind, but going off somewhere. You will reach eventually, but it will take that time. Uru janmam, pattu janmam, nuru janmam, God knows. But if you turn around, if you turn inwards, you know that you have to turn inwards to find that sanctum sanctorum, Garbhagraha. That Garbhagraha is right here. For just turn around and you'd be able to see that presence is there. Now, what uh, the Kenopanishad continues is, it says after the, okay, so which is the first instrument that gets this understanding? It is always the mind. When self-realization dawns upon someone, this understanding dawns upon someone, where does that understanding present itself? It presents in the mind. So that is why in this verse it is said that Indra was the first to get it. So if you're saying Indra is the mind, then the mind is the first that gets this understanding. When realization dawns through grace, through Uma's grace, the first instrument that receives this particular understanding is the mind. Because the mind becomes extremely clear. I remember reading Eckhart Tolle. I've told you about this German philosopher. He still lives. He says after he had the shift in consciousness, see, these people don't call it a self-realization, right? It becomes it's also an overly used word. So it's a shift in consciousness, which means I used to think I am this body, I am this mind, I am this emotion, I am this feeling. Then takkana, there was a separation that happened between I and the mind, the emotion, the feeling, the thoughts, everything. There is a separation that happened. So when that separation happened, he says it's a shift in consciousness this happened. And he says after that, in the mind, and then when this happened, it happened at night, on a particular night. Because he was going through intense agony. He was wanting to give up his life and all that. He had attempted a few suicides, failed attempts. And then on a particular night, he was thinking, I am unable to live with myself. It's unbearable. I am unable to live with myself. And then he suddenly, in his consciousness, there is this separation that happens between I and myself. Says, I am unable to live with myself. So what is this I? What is this myself? Suddenly, it just dawns as an understanding. Where does it dawn? In the mind. So mind is the first instrument in which the understanding will dawn. And when the separation happens and then he processes it, he spends a few days with it. And he says after that, when he is sitting and observing something, there are no thoughts rising. He says 70% of my thoughts stopped. Only 30% of thoughts which will say, oh, you have to get up now. You have to walk to your house. You have to go and eat your dinner. You have to do this. You have to do. Basically, whatever is required from a survival standpoint, those thoughts will arise and he will fulfill those thoughts. There are no thoughts like, oh, what should I do? What is life about? Where am I going? What is this? What is the purpose? How is he living? What am I doing? With nobody is giving me, recognition, respect, what to do? Where should I? All of these thoughts subsided. Literally, because he realized that those thoughts are not he. But the moment you recognize the separation, those thoughts don't have a basis. They don't have a ahankara or an ego to cling to. So they will also disappear. And only thoughts that remain are thoughts of physical survival need. Whatever is required for your physical survival, only those thoughts will arise. So where does the first reflection of self-realization occur? It is in the instrument of the mind. And that is represented by Indra here. So that is what this verse says, verse 4.2, that the gods surpassed, Agni, Vayu, Indra were the nearest to approach. And then amongst them, Indra was the one who excelled. Because he was the one who got nearest, he was the one to understand Brahman first. Which means the mind understands Brahman. Now, when the mind gets this realization, then what happens? Then the eyes, the ears, the taste, touch, smell, everything is then now opened up to a completely new world. Because now everything can experience Brahman consciousness everywhere. Once it dawns upon the mind, and then because the mind is now understood, all the senses also now understand. Then the eyes are able to see Bhagavan everywhere. Like how Prahlada is able to see Bhagavan everywhere. Literally see. The eyes were able to see. That was Vishwarupa Darshanam. That is a true Vishwarupa Darshanam that Prahlada had. So wherever he went after that, he was able to see Bhagavan. The ears, even if some things keep falling, it will not matter. Like you remember from Venkateshwara Suprabhatam, he said, Prativadi Bhayankaram Anna was walking. Suddenly he heard about Manavala Mamuni and then he started listening and he got absorbed and he got delayed in and he did not put the Panchadravyam into the Parimalam into the water. And he felt profusely sorry about it. And Perumal Tapre Pandar. But what happened? Somebody was talking about Manavala Mamuni. Oh, such a great exalted saint. His ears are drinking of that nectar. So your ears, wherever there is bhajana, there is upanyasam, there is Bhagavad Nama, you'll automatically get drawn to it. Taste, automatically you will want only sattvic. You won't want too much of jing bang, dab, give me the maximum masala போட்டு மேல அதெல்லாம் போட்டு coloring போட்டு red colorல you'll not want those things. You will not feel like, because you'll be in harmony. There'll be so much of this is dharma. This is what it means to be in dharma. You'll be in harmony, in tune with whatever is happening. You'll not feel like you want to do any kind of imposition of what you want, what you like, my raga dvesha, I don't want to impose it on the world. I'll try whatever I can, otherwise I'll settle in. Comes out of understanding, not out of restrictions, not out of forced um, um, you're not forcing yourself. So this is what happens when that understanding dawns. So the mind first receives that understanding. So this is how the story has gone, right? Indra goes, which is the mind goes, sees Uma Parvati. She says, it is through my grace you get the understanding of Brahman, then the understanding of the supreme, the knowledge that everything is this supreme consciousness that is all pervading it. Ishavasyam idam sarvam. That understanding dawns upon the mind. And when it dawns upon the mind, and then from the eyes and the nose and the ears and everything, that understanding exudes. That understanding exudes. And then for such a person, it is very difficult to explain to anybody why the world appears very different to them. ஒரு பாயிண்ட்டுக்கு மேல they'll only say, I can tell what I can tell. இதுக்கு மேல உனக்கு புரிஞ்சுக்கோ இல்லையா இல்லை. Because perspective has changed entirely. Things that matters to everybody else will not matter to this individual anymore. It is not that this person won't have problems. He'll have financial problems, he'll have family problems, he will have this problem, that problem, ayurvedic problem, physical problems எல்லாம் இருக்கும். But it will not be perceived in the same way as the rest of us perceive. Those will not hold him sway. It will not have an impression on him at all. Because the mind has got this understanding, and this understanding is not on and off. In one of the verses, it will say, Brahman comes on and off. This understanding is not on and off. The same thing, Annamalaya Swami, Ramana Maharishi's disciple, he has written a beautiful book. He says the same thing. When this understanding dawned, the effort dropped. The recognition was effortless. He says, the recognition of truth, the recognition that Bhagavan is here right now has become effortless. You don't have to think to say, oh, Bhagavan inga irkara, anga irkara, na evlo kashtapattun irukene, I am going through this, is Bhagavan here? Those questions are not right. It becomes like how we today, if somebody asks you, are a man or a woman, you don't think twice to say whether you're a man or a woman. The truth about what we know about my body and mind is so ingrained. In the same way, the recognition that Bhagavan is here right now, present with me, as I do everything, as I speak, as I see, as I hear, as I listen, as I walk, as I talk, as I do everything. He's here with me right now at this moment, pulsating, enabling. Everything that is happening is through this, that understanding. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. Understand that is Brahman, not that which you run behind and you keep praying, worshipping, doing 200 coconuts, you go break and do arti, puja. Not that. This recognition. Tadeva tvam vidhi. Understand that this tat eva Brahman, that alone is Brahman. So this understanding dawns, and then from all your senses, it will ooze out like that. So this is what the verse 1, 2, 3. Yeah. From the 4th verse, he talks about different kinds of how does a sadhaka perceive, or different kinds of meditations a sadhaka takes on for Brahmajnana, or these are meditations. In fact, what I read was in Shankara Bhashya, he actually says, Shankara Bhashya says that some of these methods are for for lower sadhakas. For lower, he says Shankaracharya, because Shankaracharya's scale of this thing is very high. He expects you to be like that. So for him, if you have come into the Upanishad, it already means that you have a certain adhikaritvam, right? Some adhikaritvam you're carrying. You want to be, you resolved yourself something. So he says some of these methods that are mentioned are for lower sadhakas. But still, we will look at it. We'll go through this next week. Okay. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendrayirva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanayeti Samarpayami Sadashivayeti Samarpayami Jagadambiketi Samarpayami Sadgurunathayeti Samarpayami Hari Om Tat Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Gurudeva.